everyone, it's been a minute since I've done a video, so I figured I'd get back on here and do a rundown of some of the key employment law changes that are coming in 2024. So bear with me, I've had a cold. You might notice that my voice is a little bit more husky than it used to be, but actually I think that's probably a good thing. It's quite nice for recording, so enjoy it, you're welcome. So what I thought would be useful was to talk about my top 4 employment law changes that are coming in 2024. There are many other changes coming, so this isn't me saying that you shouldn't look out for those ones too, but these ones are quite key and I wanted to highlight them to you. So the first one, and the one that everybody looks for, is the increase in the national minimum wage. So this will be coming in April. For a lot of people you'll be seeing an increase, but it might not impact others. One of the key things to bear in mind is this year people will be eligible for the national minimum wage when they are 21 and over, whereas last year you had to be 23 and over, so there's a little bit of a change there. I will pop a link to the government website down below, but also here are some key stats for you to have a look at just for now. So the next one for me is the Workers' Predictable Terms and Conditions Act. And this one's quite interesting. So this is the government trying to deal with the 0 hours contracts issue that we have in the UK. So for those of you who don't know, people can be on what's called a 0 hours contract. You don't have any hours that are guaranteed within that. Your employer can contact you and say, hey, we've got 4 hours that we want you to work. Do you want to do it? You can say yes or no. And in theory, you can have 0 hours contracts with multiple different organisations. So the government are concerned that these type of contracts allow for exploitation. You might have seen on the news a few organisations that were exploiting those kind of contracts, not going to name them. So this act is really their attempt, or their first proper attempt at dealing with that. So what this act does is allow people on these types of contracts or unpredictable working patterns to request to have more predictable working hours, and that request part is really important. So once somebody's been on one of these patterns for 26 weeks, they can go to their employer and request to have a more predictable working pattern. But that's the key thing, you can request it, your employer does not have to grant it. So for me, this doesn't really go far enough. I'm not sure what the government are doing to make sure people in these situations are actually aware of their right to request, and enshrining a right in law is fabulous, but it doesn't actually necessarily mean that they're going to get the predictable working patterns or the thing that the government is trying to kind of get to. So I would expect that we'll see more tweaks to this going forwards, but I think this is kind of the government kind of drawing a bit of a line in the sand to show employers kind of where they're standing with this. The next one is the Employee Relations Flexible Working Act, which is quite an interesting one. So this one will make some slight changes to the way that people request flexible working. And I guess the way that the world is right now in terms of kind of after we've had COVID and people working from home more, the way that people work is generally more flexible, and obviously, you know, caveat being if you work in a factory, etc., then that probably isn't the case. But in general, people are working more flexibly now. We're seeing more working from home, more people doing more than one job. So this act is quite interesting, I suppose, in terms of timing and what it will actually do in terms of the way that people work. So at the moment, when people request flexible working, they can only make one request within a 12-month period. When this new act comes into force next year, you'll be able to make 2 requests within a 12-month period. Another thing is, once you've made a request to have a flexible working pattern, your employer will need to come back to you with a response within 2 months of you making that request. At the moment, employers can come back to you within 3 months, so you'll be kind of shortening that period down and giving people less time to wait. Also, with the provisions of the new act, you won't have to explain the impact of your flexible working request on the business. Whereas at the moment, the way that it works is you have to explain that. You have to outline to your employer what impacts you think there will be to the business if you do this. So some quite interesting changes are coming with this new law, kind of shortening down the time that people have to wait and giving you more opportunity to request flexible working. Another point is, at the moment, the legislation doesn't have this within it, but we're expecting it to come soon. This will ideally or possibly be one of those things that people will be able to request right from the beginning of their employment with an employer. At the moment, you have to wait 26 weeks before you can make a flexible working request, but when this new piece of legislation comes in, this secondary bit, the legislators are hoping that you'll be able to do that from the first day of your employment. So that one will be quite key and quite interesting, and as I say, I'm quite interested to see what that actually does to the world of work, because we are already working so flexibly, and there are a lot of organisations that go above and beyond, right? This is going to be the baseline, but actually there are a lot of organisations that will let you request flexible working as much as you want, and from the get-go. So we'll see whether or not this actually kind of makes a change to the way that people work. The other one then, or the final one for me, is the Carers Leave Act. And again, I guess care is quite close to my heart, so this one's quite an interesting one. But what this will do when it comes into place is allow people 1 week's unpaid leave to arrange kind of long-term care for somebody who needs it. So I guess it's intended to be a, you know, somebody goes into care or into a caring situation and you need time to be able to find somebody to look after them. This is intended to be space for you to do that. It'll be something that will be applicable from day one of your employment, and obviously is a great step in the right direction. We know that we have many carers who work in the UK, or not necessarily carers working, if you see what I mean, people who work and also have care responsibilities. It's a brilliant step forward, but in my opinion, we kind of need a little bit more. Most people who are dealing with somebody who needs to have long-term care aren't going to be able to deal with that in a 1 week period. If they are, they probably need to be paid rather than unpaid. And, you know, we just need to have some more longer term provisions. I'm not suggesting I know what they are, but I think this is a caveat being this is a great step forward, but I think it needs to be kind of our first step as opposed to our only step. So there you have it. Super quick video. My 4 things to bear in mind, or in terms of employment law changes that are coming in 2024. I'll pop as many links as I can, particularly for the national minimum wage one, down in the bottom of the comments for you to have a look. But any thoughts, comments, anything that you want to add, please do let me know. Oh, and if you haven't already, make sure that you like and smash the subscribe